PSG win by 4-0 over Real Madrid, continuing their amazing campaign at this Club World Cup. They have only given up one goal at this tournament. That goal was to Botafogo in that group stage defeat. Otherwise, 2-0 win over Bayern Munich, 4-0 win over Real Madrid, 2-0 win over Seattle Sounders, 4-0 win over Atletico Madrid. This is a PSG side that are absolutely dominant. But we want to start by talking about this Real Madrid performance. What do we make of uncharacteristic mistakes? We normally do not see Real Madrid defenders make the silly errors that they did today.
Yeah, listen, Real Madrid are obviously Real Madrid. They're a giant. They were well supported in the stadium today, and it was a massive occasion for them. Obviously, financially, it would have benefited them. I think it was a big occasion, obviously, for Kylian Mbappe. Good to see him in the starting 11, and obviously, the front three, I didn't predict that. I thought we would see one of them miss out. Then Paris Saint-Germain just took it to them. High pressure, and we've seen that from Luis Enrique. When it matters most, put the high pressure on. Obviously, we saw what happened in the kickoff in the Champions League. You remember that, Witty? Booted the ball straight into the corner to get an advantage so you can attack in the right areas. They did that in this game in the opening 10 minutes. But mistakes you simply cannot afford to do. What Asensio did do, ridiculous. It's kind of embarrassing in many ways. Massive occasion. I don't care whether you arrive late by your aircraft arriving late the night before because of weather in the New York area. I don't care if it's your bus arriving late to the stadium, the weather conditions. There's no excuse for these types of mistakes on this level. At this occasion, I think Asensio's put himself in a bit of jeopardy here because Xabi Alonso's looking at every single player and he is grading every single player who he can rely on the big occasion. And I think himself and Rudiger really let themselves down. And there, PSG, they were terrific. We don't want to take anything away from them. But to be 2-0 down 9 minutes into the game, 3-0 down after 24 minutes of the game, they haven't been 3-0 down in what, 22 years? At that point, it's absolutely insane in 24 minutes of a game. So, yeah, unacceptable performance from Real Madrid. They were nowhere near at the level they needed to be to compete against one of the most informed sides and clearly in world football right now.
In some ways, is this not a case, though, of PSG, the finished article, versus Real Madrid, the team in progress? Real Madrid obviously are a team. They're never really a team in progress. They're never really a team that rebuilds. But change of manager, change of philosophy, is that kind of what we saw today, that there's still a lot of work for Xabi Alonso to do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're 3-0 down 24 minutes into a game, there's more than a lot of work to do. I think, obviously, the character and the mindset was tested about a lot of the players, and he would have learned a lot about the players that he had at his disposal in this matchup, especially in the opening half of the game. They were absolute rubbish, and especially with shots on goal. They had one shot on goal in the first half. Second half, okay, they tried to a little bit more, but they just couldn't create enough. They had 2 shots on goal in the whole game. So yeah, creativity wise, that was the biggest problem, and that's where I was least worried. I thought if you sure go with the hot hand in Gonçalo Garcia, you've got a goal scorer and someone who can create a chance. If you bring Kylian Mbappe in, he's playing against his former club, he's going to be well up for it. Vinny Jr. is going to be well up for it because he's got a point to prove. For me, Vinny's not scoring and assisting enough right now, and in this game he was ridiculously quiet once again. He had 1 blocked shot. There's no creativity right now with this Real Madrid side. So, yeah, I mean, exactly what you just said there. There is room for improvement. There's a lot of work to be done. But I also think it's a long season for these players. It's kind of crazy to ask them 11 months later to still bring a top-class performance and really play well. But we all expected it, their fans expected it, and it didn't happen for Real Madrid today. They got absolutely humiliated.
We should also note that Trent Alexander-Arnold did not play in the game. Federico Valverde is starting at that right-back position. Trent Alexander-Arnold dealing with a bit of a knock in the build-up to this one. But you mentioned that point about the 11 months and the games and all that, but PSG went all the way in the Champions League. They went to the final and they won it. You talk about the motivation of some of these big European sides at the Club World Cup. Yeah. They are showing no signs of slowing down. And they didn't from the word go. They hammer Atleti on the opening day at the Rose Bowl. And then they all the way through to the semifinal have performed as good as we see them every single week in Champions League, in Liga. This PSG side is unerring in their brilliance.
Yeah, but also please don't ever forget the fact that PSG did not start their campaign back in, 24-25 season, August last year, well. They were kind of slow off the races. They got an injury to Gonçalo Ramos. They then had a fallout with Ousmane Dembélé, and players were rotating in and out of the team. What impresses me most is the fact that there was incredible rotation even when the team wasn't playing well. Some youngsters came into the team, especially in that first 6-month period, and then all of a sudden they started to really hit full cylinder. They were absolutely at it from January onwards. In many ways it's down to the fact that Kvara came into the team, and obviously you've called many of his games. He's one playmaker and one dangerous player that many defenses will have problems with, and he has the potential, in my opinion, to win Ballon d'Or at some stage. He's that good. He's that dangerous. But then you've got Doué, who impressed us in the Champions League, and Ousmane Dembélé, who's scoring more goals than anyone else in calendar year 2025. They are hitting form at the right time. And it's not just the Champions League. You remember, we've all been laughing at them. I've certainly been guilty of it. PSG can't get over the finish line. You know, and I, at one point in my career, worked for their owner, Nasser El Khalifi, and I know his demand is to win, to be successful, but also to do it in a pleasing on the eye style. He has got the right man in charge, and they are playing football at the right moment. Best team in Europe, they might just be the best team in the world right now.
And it's so interesting how that narrative changes. It goes from, as you say, absolutely, the team that were laughed at in major European football.
What do you think that was, Chris? What do you think the change was going from the first 6 months to then eventually the team that we're seeing now?
Well, I think the change within this season comes down to finally figuring out the solution, which was, for me, Dembélé going in at center forward. And you see all the changes that fit around it. The pieces start to fit in this team. They really don't have to play with a center forward for them to be effective. I think in the overall, the sort of big strategy is, first off, they've spent a lot of money, but they spent the money now on talented, young French players that fit Luis Enrique's system and that know where they're going, as opposed to spending it on the biggest name and the biggest stars possible. Neymar, Messi, Mbappe. Mbappe obviously was a brilliant player and a young star at the same time, but you're not figuring out how to build your team around the stars. You're figuring out what the collective is first and how the pieces fit therein. And I think we're now seeing a team that goes from the laughingstock to now, I think, going into next season, anyone that's playing them in a major game, in a big competition, is fearing what PSG, just don't hurt us. Don't hit us too hard.
Listen, they got numbers in advance to be able to rotate as much as they possibly can. They will rest players going into the beginning of their domestic season. You can't help but look at the fact that they're cleaning up domestically. So they don't necessarily need to play their best team every single week to win that domestic title. Rotation has been awesome. Do they have the two best fullbacks in world football? Hakimi, what he's doing, assisting and scoring. Mendes on that left-hand side, or Minge to you when you're commentating the game. And then in midfield, it might be the best midfield that we are watching in world football right now. Many people can debate that. Come at me if you will. But Paris Saint-Germain are checking every single box. But this is ridiculous with you. You must have enjoyed calling that midfield this season.
God, to me, Fabián Ruiz is the player that doesn't get enough credit. Vitinha, an unbelievable development as a player. João Neves this season has been terrific. But Fabián Ruiz, for me, is kind of the unsung part of both the PSG team and the Spain team. There, for me, is no coincidence that he is in the best national team and the best club team in the world. And he just doesn't get anywhere near that credit. Now that he's starting to score some goals, he just might.
You know, you pointed out the fact that they were rotating their team, and it's a young team. They're not frightened to also go and add the player that they need that might complete the puzzle. They go out and get Kvaratskhelia, which to me was an unreal piece of business. How on earth did you manage to convince him to go there? First and foremost, Paris is an awesome city, but you're playing in French football. Now you're European champions, probably because of him. But Luis Enrique has proved to us that he is a brave man. Kylian Mbappe's out the door. He also managed to get some success from Bradley Barcola. And then, of course, Doué comes in the door, and all of a sudden you've got this rotation of youngsters who are eager to get into the starting 11. He is creating a battle to play for his team. They're all happy. They're all fresh because of that rotation. Man, next season, they might go ahead and win yet again another completion of the treble. They're just so good.
They are European champions, but they are not yet world champions.